Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How NYC Agents Are Staying Nimble and Still Closing. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join using your telephone, just select the telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy in a follow-up email within 24 hours with a link to view the recording. I would now like to introduce StreetEasy's Senior Manager of Industry Communications, Lisa Holden.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining today, and welcome. I'm Lisa, I lead Industry Communications here at StreetEasy, and I hope everyone is comfortably quarantined out there. I myself am coming to you live from the studio, and by studio, I do mean my literal home here in Union Square in Manhattan. I'm so glad to have everyone on the line today. Quick reminder about Q&A. You can ask a question at any time. Just use that control panel. And we are fully on social today too. So if you want to share a photo of where you're watching from, maybe put that on Instagram and tag StreetEasy, tag us on Twitter too. We're on all of it, and we'd love to see what webinar snack you've chosen to watch along with, or maybe you're having an afternoon cocktail. Share it with us. We'd love to see. So the purpose of today's webinar is to give an opportunity to have a peer discussion about how agents are adapting to what's happening in the industry right now. Needless to say, it's an interesting time for our industry, and no one knows that better than all of you. I've been spending most of my time speaking with agents individually and hearing stories about how you're navigating these unique times. And today you'll hear individual stories from 3 of New York City's top agents who have gotten creative to get deals done. And they'll each take a turn to share their experiences firsthand, and we'll have some time at the end to answer your questions as well. Now, this discussion is meant to foster creativity and ideas and talk about what's working and how we're all weathering this storm together. So I really do encourage you to post those questions along the way. And with that, let's meet our panelists. First up, I'd like to introduce you to Sandy Abbas with Douglas Elliman. Sandy, please say hello.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandy Abbas from Douglas Elliman, and I'm coming to you live from Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Awesome, glad to have you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Sarah Laszlo with Next Stop NY.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah Laszlo. I'm coming to you live from Midtown East. Welcome, thanks for coming.
Great to have you. And finally, Kirsten Jordan over at Compass.
Hi, everyone. I am coming to you from the West Village, and thanks for joining us.
All right, so now that we've got all our panelists up, they're going to start to close their webcams down as we go into our first of 3 stories here. And the first one is really about virtual tours and the challenge of not being able to get into a property when the pause order went into effect. So we'll go to our next slide, which is all about Sandy. And Sandy, you have an interesting conundrum involving a great listing, but no ability to access it. So why don't you tell us what happened?
Yes, I want to start off by saying thank you so much to StreetEasy and Lisa Holden for having me here today. I'm so happy to share my story with all of you. I'm going to start off by telling you about the listing, my clients, and why I love the new 3D tour feature. I got introduced to my clients by a trust and estates attorney. My clients, they're a lovely family, extended family. There's a mother and a father, and they've been the owners for close to 40 years. And there's also the daughter that lives in the property with the daughter's husband and their 11-year-old son. So the property is located in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. That's where I was born and raised, actually. It's a very booming Brooklyn community. The address of the property is 458 57th Street. It's between 4th and 5th Avenue. So 4th Avenue, you have 2 blocks away, the Express N train that takes you to the city within 25 minutes. You can also walk to the ferry there. And then on 5th Avenue, you have a lot of shopping, restaurants. You can walk to the famous Sunset Park. So the property is very conveniently located. It's a 3-story, 2-family house, and it's located in the middle of a quiet, tree-lined block. The lot size is 20 by 100. The square footage is roughly 2,200 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And the backyard is huge. It's close to 1,000 square feet, and it has a beautiful rose garden. The asking price is $1.680. And the home is very modern because the kitchens and the bathrooms have been completely renovated, but yet it still has preserved original details such as hardwood floors, original doors. It's a very beautiful home. So I put this listing towards the end of February, and at first I was showing it for around a week and a half. I had plenty of direct buyers coming by. I had buyers agents bringing their clients for showings. And then on March 11th, I had 2 private viewings set with a buyer's agent. And the buyer's agent was running late, like half an hour late. I was wondering where she was. And me and the clients, I was already at the client's home. We get a knock at the door, and basically it's the buyer. And she's like, my clients are scared with this virus. We have to cancel. And I suggest you do the same thing. So kind of freaked out my client a bit, and it freaked out myself a bit. And I said, okay, well, when am I going to be able to get into this property again to show? So I took a quick video just in case if I had any future potential cancellations. And then I went home, and days passed by, and March 16th came, and that was when the shutdown came, and basically I couldn't get any access in there at all, even if I wanted to. My clients were scared because the father has underlying medical conditions, and I was scared to leave my own home. So I was thinking, how am I going to help my clients? And then that's when I got StreetEasy's email on March 20th, when they introduced their new 3D tour feature. So I quickly called my clients, and I asked to speak with the daughter, and she was all game for it. So what I did was I emailed her the application so she can download it onto her iPhone with complete instructions. And then in one day, she texted me the completed 3D tour app. I then sent it to my listings department so they can upload it to my listing. So I love the 3D tour because it gave me a third marketing tool to add on to my listings, because I had the professional pictures done, I did a video, and now on top of that, it made my listing unique, and not a lot of agents were trying it yet. So it gave me a competitive technological edge, and my clients were happy about that. And also, since I did that, the listing rankings for my listing soared compared to the other listings in the neighborhood. And then, of course, StreetEasy featured the listing, and 2 other real estate companies, real estate website companies featured it. So if you haven't tried it yet, I recommend that you try the TD tour. If you can't get in your client's house for some reason, have your client try it out. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask. So thank you so much for hearing my story today. And back to Lisa.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. And I think this is a really unique situation, right? Because you had a client who was willing to help, who was actually able to use their iPhone to take this 3D tour and send it to you so you could put it on the listing. And, you know, it's the perfect example of an instance where perseverance and luck worked hand in hand, which brings us to our first audience poll. So if we can pull up the poll here, our question for everyone on the line is, how likely is it that a seller is willing to jump in and help create a 3D home tour like this? And your options are not very likely at all. This is the kind of thing that sellers expect to take on, regardless pandemic or no pandemic. The next option is somewhat. They might help if they can. Or finally, very likely, sellers are motivated to get the deal done too. And I think we can all agree, Sandy, this wouldn't have come to fruition without your thoughtfulness and conviction to get it done. But, you know, luckily the seller was in a position to help. So I'm curious to hear what our listeners have to say here. I'm looking at the poll answers coming in. It looks like very likely sellers are motivated to get the deal done too, is 1 percentage point again ahead of somewhat they might help if they can. Very few people say that sellers aren't willing to help with this, which is great, right? That means that if you're in a situation where a seller can help, they hopefully will. Let's see if we can put, it looks like we've got some pretty good participation here. Let's see if we can put the results up on the screen. All right, so we have a tie with somewhat and very likely. Well, great. I mean, to me, that sounds like the folks out there in the New York City real estate landscape are really working with folks who are engaged, at least to some degree, which is quite promising. All right, now we're going to hear from Sarah Laszlo. And Sarah, forgive me, your team came up with a virtual open house approach that's, in my opinion, as compelling as it is innovative. And so we'll pull up Sarah's slide here. And Sarah, can you give us a rundown of how your team put this together?
Absolutely. Yes, so from the beginning of the shutdown, my firm, Next Stop New York, has really made a concerted effort to stay engaged with the community. So we have a whole series of virtual events, you know, some that aren't even related to real estate, to keep us engaged with the local community, help us, you know, sometimes we sponsor with another business. And this sort of Zoom open house thing was my contribution to the event series. So when the shutdown started, we were all together brainstorming, trying to think of ways to keep people engaged with our company and our listings. And I realized that I had a unique situation. I have a listing in the building I live in, and it's unoccupied at the moment. So I have access. There's no one else in there. It's safe to go in. So I thought, why can't we show this virtually over Zoom? And fortunately, I have a number of colleagues who are in the same situation. So I teamed up with Denise O'Neill, who's I'm at 333 East 53rd. She's at 333 East 55th. Jamie Blau at 235 East 57th Street, and Craig Roth, who's our principal broker, at 245 East 54th at the Brevard. We all had unoccupied listings in the same neighborhood, and a lot of listings that were similar. So Jamie has a 2-bedroom, Craig has a 2-bedroom, and Craig has a bunch of 1-bedrooms. Denise has a junior 4, and I have a 1-bedroom. Then they're all in the same neighborhood in a similar price range. So we thought, why don't we team up together and do a virtual open house? So we can actually be in the listing. If people have questions, show them things, and people can see a bunch of different, do almost like a tour, a bunch of different listings in the same neighborhood. And we also invited vendors we work closely with. So we usually have a mortgage banker on. So he can answer questions about financing, you know, during this time or in general. We have a lawyer come on who she can speak about contracts during COVID. So obviously there are a lot of legal questions that have arisen during this time. And then some people might have a general question about the contract process. We have a designer and architect come on who can, some of these units do need some renovations. So she can talk about what can be done, what can't be done, sort of how that works, how long it takes, and, you know, open up different ideas to people who, you know, who are looking at an apartment that may need some work, or, you know, how to decorate some of our move-in ready units. So we've been successful, I think, in reaching out to people who are, you know, serious people who are ready to buy. Some people are our clients who show up, some people show up with their brokers. And then, you know, sometimes we have people who come on just because they had a question that they wanted to ask the lawyer or the mortgage banker. And sometimes we just get people who I think just want to see 4 walls that aren't their own. So we're trying to create an engaged event where people can come for any reason, whether it's just to see an apartment they're not currently stuck in, or ask questions of a lawyer, ask questions of a mortgage banker, or start to narrow down the options for when they're ready to buy. So I think it's been great. We've been able to expand the event over this time. So now we have enough listings where we're holding 2 of these virtual open houses every week. So we have one tonight for the 1 bedrooms in the Brevard. And we were in fact able to expand to other listings that we don't have access to. Some of the owners have taken videos for us, so we can't be live there, but we can at least show and talk about and add it on to the tour of what we have available. So it's really been great, and it's given us a way to engage with the community during this time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I think the notion of wanting to see 4 walls that aren't my own really resonates with me personally here in the studio. That's also the office. That's also the bedroom and the living room. So you're doing a public service at the very least. And at the most, you're giving potential buyers exactly what they want, which is all the information that they could possibly ask for, and likely more information than they would get in a traditional open house by bringing in all those other voices. So really thrilled to feature this story. And the fact that you were able to pull it off kind of as a group leads me to my next poll. So we'll get that poll up. And what that says to the audience is, now I'm curious to hear from this group. Networking with other agents is unnecessary, maybe important, but lower on the priority list given the current circumstance, or vital to survival in New York City real estate. Now, I'll tell you, in our prep call, we talked a lot about really engaging with your local community and finding ways to virtually connect, not just with potential customers, but with fellow agents as well. So to everyone on the line, please do take this poll. And regardless of where your answers land, this is a great one to ask specific questions about at the end, because all 3 of our speakers have excellent tips for networking within the industry and with the community as a whole. So let's see how results are coming in here. Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm seeing far and away the winner response is networking with other agents is vital to survival in New York City real estate. Some say 28% looks like say important but lower on the priority list. And we've got even more participation than last time. Let's get those poll results up there so everyone can see. Yeah, so 1%, I'm guessing that's 1 person says this is completely unnecessary. And listen, I would encourage that 1 person to stay on the line, because we are about to hear from someone who's going to break down the importance of this and tips and tricks for how to do it. With that, I would love to introduce Kirsten Jordan, who can speak to the very notion of embracing other agents and how to network with them.
Just at that very moment, another agent is calling me to talk to me about my opinion on the marketplace. So there you go. Right now, I am constantly talking to other agents in the city. There is nothing more important to me than understanding what's going on with other agents, because they have their finger on the pulse of everything that's going on the same way I do. And because of the fact that most of our transactions are co-brokes in New York City, whether I'm speaking to new agents or seasoned agents, we will most likely at some point in our career, the longer we're here doing this business, we're going to do deals together. So the relationships I've had over the last 13 years with other agents not only have helped me learn about best practices in the industry, but they've also taught me about deals that maybe were coming to market, or helped me get through transactions that were difficult, or that that maybe they had a solution that maybe I did not. Right now, during this quarantine time, I've had a couple of offers that have come in on properties that that needed, for example, renovation, and so we have been my team has thought of this, and I have a 13-person team called the Hudson Advisory Team. And one of the ways that we think of this is that kind of the village raises the child, and that if someone's in town and there needs to be a walkthrough, that has to be a virtual walkthrough where somebody has to go there and physically do the FaceTime. If one of us is not in town, just because it's not our deal, we're not going to step back and not go see go show the space and help one of our colleagues out. And the same thing goes if I'm trying to close the deal and the seller's agent can't be there, but I can be there and have to step in to do whatever is legally allowed at this point in time with our shelter-in-place guidelines. That's something that I'm stepping up to doing. One of the things that I think is really, really special about working with new agents, and this is definitely a big vote of confidence in new agents, is that new agents at a time like this, I think while we're in a period that is probably more difficult than anything I've seen, even though I have been through 2008 and 2009, this is a time when beginning agents can actually probably have a little bit of beginner's luck sometimes because of the fact that they don't have the stories in their head that that some of us agents do that have been in the industry for a long time. So this is a time when the enthusiasm of being a beginner, not having the excuses that some of us more experienced agents make for ourselves about getting deals done, or and maybe having a little bit more patience and a little bit less fear about going out there and getting turned down, is something that could be a positive in a market like this, when there's going to be, of course, objections from sellers and from buyers to doing transactions. So that's something that I think is a positive thing that makes me want to be around new agents sometimes. And we do have some new agents on our team, and having them around is a breath of fresh air for me. And it's something I always learn something from new agents, because they encounter stuff that sometimes I don't think to go up against or encounter because of the years that I've been in the industry. One specific anecdote that I wanted to reference that has to do with the transactions that we're trying to do right now in this marketplace, and the village raising the child, is outside of just a virtual walkthrough. Recently, I have a property that has an offer on it, and we have been working on this offer for the last 2 months, and the property needs renovation. So what I've done is that there was a contractor that had come through before I had put the property on the market and given me an estimate for a paint job. He didn't end up being the one that did the paint job, but he is able to do other levels of renovation. So he would be somebody who I would actually probably tap their shoulder to ask them to give me an estimate for the renovation that's going to be done on this apartment. And what he was able to do is go back through his notes and give an estimate to the buyers of the apartment the apartment that I represent that's being bid on right now, and give them a rough estimate for renovation, which was able to make me be able to get them to come up in price. We're still a little bit too far apart, but this is a creative way to think about your village, of whether it's agents that have information about renovation costs in the same building that maybe you've done, that you're trying to do a transaction in, to be able to try to get ballpark costs to get closer to a meeting of the minds, or just the idea that I'm talking about of collaborating with other agents, also the way that Sarah was saying, of collaborating to figure out ways within the limits of what is allowed to have the videos that we need, have the imagery that we need, and have the enthusiasm and resilience that we need to do deals right now. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. Let's see, that's all I have to say about that. I guess, Lisa, am I missing anything else there?
You are right on track. This is actually the perfect time to turn it over to audience Q&A. So I will invite all of our speakers to come back via webcam, and we'll get those slides out of the way here. We've gotten a good handful of questions coming in. And I'm on a command center here. I'm looking at questions, but also making sure everyone's up on the webcams. And the first question we have here, it actually looks like a good one. Kirsten, why don't I have you start off answering this, and then if anyone else would like to chime in, please do. So Kirsten, at a time when there's less activity in the market, what do I have to offer fellow agents? Why should they bother wanting to connect with me when I'm just starting out?
So as a new agent, I did start as a new agent during a time that was a really difficult time. I started when I was 24, and it was the 2008 crisis. And there is, as I said before, a level of patience and a level of, I would say, enthusiasm and a less kind of self-talk that new agents have that is refreshing for a lot of buyers. A lot of buyers talk to, agents that are more experienced, and they can be brushed off really quickly because of the fact that maybe they don't know what they want. They seem that they're maybe not far along enough in their process, or even sellers that maybe are not as realistic about their price and they're very, very stick in the mud about it. This is something that is a really good opportunity for new agents, because at this time of uncertainty, there's really no way to know how things are going to go in some ways. And so if you're the last woman or man standing in any sort of situation, you might be the one that ends up getting that deal done. And if you don't, it's a great time to learn. So that's my vote of advice for new agents as to why you should still put a smile on your face and show up during a time like this. And I think you'll learn a lot, and this is a really great time to start learning about real estate.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks, Kirsten. This next one is a two-parter, and I think I'm going to kick it to Sandy. So the first part of the question is, where can I find the StreetEasy 3D app? So I'll just make a clarification real quick. It's the Zillow 3D Home Tour app. It's free on, your iPhone App Store, and you can download that, or your client can download it, and you can be up and running from there. And you can incorporate the 3D tour into your StreetEasy listing. Now, Sandy, the second part of this question is for you, which is how is that listing with the 3D tour performing? Have you gotten any offers?
Oh, I mean, it really helped my listing out. So when I first added on the 3D tour link, I checked the ratings, the Zillow ratings, and basically out of 15 properties in Sunset Park, it ranked number 2. The one that ranked number 1 actually was a newer listing. But I just checked yesterday, and out of 20 listings in Sunset Park right now, my listing is number 1. So it shows that it works, the power of 3D tours. And then it's gotten 1,400 views in the past 30 days. So those are pretty good numbers.
Fantastic. Well, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like we've got another one here for Kirsten, if you don't mind. Kirsten, I advised a client to list her co-op now instead of waiting. My reasoning was that things are stable-ish, so why not list? People are still buying and selling, and things may get bad, so now is a good time to sell. What would your advice be?
My advice would be that there is no time like the present, because there's definitely no time like the present. We've never seen anything like this, that's for sure. And with the fact that days on market have been suspended, market wide for us here in New York, I think that there's really nothing to lose by putting your by putting your co-op on the market. What we're seeing is that there's been more listings that have actually come down than have been coming on. And so it's actually been beneficial for our sellers who have stayed on the market, because they're getting a lot of visibility. And now that we're seeing the internet activity continues to creep up, and I'm seeing a lot more inquiries now, or a lot more people following up that had actually reached out at the end of March and in the middle of April about listings. We've been able to keep those people's names and now reach out to them as we get closer to being able to show in person, or being able to go there in person and do a video tour, when before that wasn't something that we felt comfortable with. So there is no time like the present, because there's no time like the present. So because I don't think uncertainty is necessarily always bad. Anything could come out of this, and having your space on the market with good imagery is going to stand out, because there has been specifically less on the market, but also people are really browsing a lot right now, I'm seeing, and buyers seem to be very, very active on the internet. So I think this is still a very, very good time.
Fantastic.
And also, just to add, the mortgage rates are so historically low. So the buyer should take advantage of that right now, and the sellers should be putting up their listings to sell their properties.
Amen. Now, this is the question on everyone's mind that I would kick to any panelist. So give me one of these so I know who's going to take it. question for all the panelists. Has anyone closed a deal since all this went down?
Oh,
Go
good.
ahead.
How did I close the deal? Well, I mean, I had gotten the contract signed before everything happened. So what we had to do was we had to coordinate everybody, and there was several postponements. I would say that in this case, it was the bank that had the most difficulty being able to coordinate coordinate all of the electronic versions of everything and being able to get somebody who could be there in person. But we were able to close right at the end of March. So that was a great closing, and actually the price remained the same along with the same terms. So that's something to show sellers that in some cases with deals that happen pre-pandemic, we're able to still be able to hold pricing in a lot of cases. So I think that's very encouraging.
Awesome. I've got a good one for Sarah here. How are you preparing for a transition into the phases of reopening? And what do you think has changed permanently or will be with us for some time?
Well, I actually think some of these virtual events will continue because you're able to gather, I think particularly gathering experts. We probably won't do them twice a week when we can go back to in-person open houses, but it's very valuable for potential buyers and our other agents to be able to interact with the mortgage banker and the lawyer and the architect. The virtual open houses have been great for our listings that need work. So I think it's something we're looking at, continuing as an occasional event in the future. And then we've been doing our best to stay engaged with our clients and our contacts, and also the community of brokers and just New Yorkers, and specifically where we have the area where our offices are located. We are located in Midtown East and the Upper East Side, so we're trying to promote with local businesses to stay just engaged and connected with people in our community.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's easier to do this from home, for one thing. So we can have really engaging discussion right from the comfort of our own office / bathroom / studio / kitchen.
I mean, we've been having a lot of virtual events that have been great, and these aren't necessarily related to real estate. The open houses obviously are, but we'll have, in partnership with tutoring company, Storytime for children, either in New York, or they can be in New York, they can be in Toronto. You can join from anywhere. We had a Pilates class on Monday, virtual Pilates class, and then I believe we're having Pilates for children on Thursday. I need to double check the date. We have a comedy show coming up. My colleague Jamie Lau is organizing that, and she also has a fantastic webinar series going on, from everything regarding real estate, maybe organizing your closet, and then they had one on beauty and style last week, particularly for webcam events, so makeup tips and stuff like that. So all that's on YouTube now as well. So it's really inspired us to promote more online, and I think it's been great in that way to really focus on this area, and a lot of this stuff will continue.
Makes sense. I think it's so interesting to be at a time when community engagement face-to-face isn't necessarily a thing, and yet you have most members of your community who are hungry for content, entertainment, anything. Read to my kids for an hour, So finding those ways to connect creatively is crucial. Now this one, I'm going to read the question and gauge speaker sentiment. In the time of COVID, would it be okay to request brokers of their prior listing, pictures of their prior listing for my new listing coming soon on the market? Since photographers are not allowed to take pictures of the apartment, would it be okay to ask them? Go for it, Kirsten.
I recently sold something down in Tribeca, and the broker, it closed in the fall, and the buyer has decided to resell it very, very quickly. The pictures that we had were really, really beautiful, and we spent a lot of time and money taking them. The broker that happens to be representing the seller, the buyer who's now the seller, has reached out to me and asked me if she could use the sunset photographs and a couple of other photos that were of the view that she would not be able to take. And so I did agree. I felt that was very, very fair and very collaborative during an environment like this. It was something that, as an experienced agent, you do kind of, your first instinct is like, oh, really? But the truth is that it's the right thing to do during a time like this. And I'm hoping to bring a buyer to that unit, I hope. But even if I don't, it felt like an act of goodwill and a way that she could circumvent what's going on right now.
Yeah. I certainly would in this environment, and even if we weren't in this environment, because I see it, like Kirsten said, I see it also as a business development opportunity. So if they're coming to me, it's obviously not on the market yet, the listing. So if I sold in that building or if I sold that property, I may have potential buyers. So we may be able to do a deal together. And then on top of that, if I wasn't able to find a buyer, then in the future, you never know when you're going to do a deal with an agent. And so it just develops a positive relationship where you never know when you're going to need something from their listings, or you're going to need to do a transaction together and get it done because you already have a relationship together. So
awesome. Now this next one, Rosa, thank you so much for asking this question. I wish I could turn on your webcam and have you share this comment yourself, but I don't know how to do that. So instead I'm gonna read your comment, which I think is just lovely. It's for Sarah, and it says, Sarah, my listing was on your virtual open house last night, and I just had an offer come in from someone who attended. I didn't get to tell you yet before this webinar started, but this is working and people are looking. So congrats to Rosa and to Sarah. That's so awesome to hear, and thrilled to get that feedback in real time.
I'm glad Rosa's listing is a cute, fantastic triplex 1-bedroom on the Upper East Side, and it went well and it's beautiful. So I'm just thrilled for her.
Awesome. Let's see, what else do we have here? Lots of great comments about our speakers, so thanks for being on. Let's see, Sarah, let's kick this one to you. This person says, I don't have any listings right now. I'm just working on finding buyers. With less activity in the market, how do I get myself top of mind with the few leads that I have?
Okay, yeah. So I actually recommend checking out the events we're doing, the virtual events like the Storytime event or the Pilates, or we also had a magic show. Those kinds of things are not directly related to real estate, but it gives you the opportunity to promote businesses that might be, and individuals who have talents, like a magician, that might not be able to earn much income right now, or they might be struggling because of the shutdown. So you can team up with someone, host an event, you can engage with your community, you can feel like you've done something good for someone you have a connection with, and it just gets your name out there. So it's not directly related to real estate, but it does get people to start to think about you. Now, we used to do stuff like this as well in person before the shutdown. We would have an ice cream party with, there's a local ice cream shop in the East 50s that we team up with, and a la mode on 55th Street, I think. And, we team up with them for ice cream, and we had this story time with standout learning. And another thing that's great is, develop a social media presence. I really recommend checking out my colleague Jamie Blau's channel. Her webinars have been great. She's put them up on YouTube. So there are lots of things you can do to promote yourself that aren't necessarily not necessarily directly related.
Yeah, I think Sarah might be frozen here. Do we have it back? The other thing I would add is you can always email tips at StreetEasy, because we're always looking for great agents to feature with innovative ideas. So that's another road to go down too. Let's see here. Let's talk pricing discounts. So this person says, currently I have a buyer who is pushing for a bigger discount on an apartment under 1 million. How common are significant discounts at the moment? Kirsten, you want to take that one? Oh, Sandy, it looks like you're ready.
Personally, I haven't gone to that point yet. So at least you're negotiating, which is good, because I had 2 deals and my clients were like, nope, we're not closing. We're scared. We're going to hold off until the shutdown is done. So I'm just being very patient and hoping that this is over soon. But when I speak to the other agents within my company, basically the negotiations on the discounts to get the deal closed, the range has been very drastic. It's been anywhere from as low as 3% and as high as 30% off the agreed asking price. I think what really helps is that you're working with a good, savvy real estate attorney also that can help you get this done and get you to the closing.
I'd also like to say that when it comes to the discounts off of the asking price, it really also matters what the true value was in March. So what I'm seeing right now with the new development marketplace, and I think this is probably true in some cases for resales, depending on the condition of the apartment, because I do think that needing renovation is going to be a little bit of a wild card right now in some resales. What I'm seeing though is that as Sandy was saying, that there's a range in the amount of discount, but the discount amount range really correlates with, you know, the actual value of the space before everything happened. So I think that it's safe to say that in a lot of cases, we're seeing people still close even if they couldn't get a discount, which to me means that we're talking about something around 10% or a little bit less in a lot of cases, because if you're willing to close because you don't want to leave your deposit, you think it's worth still, you know, still up above 10% off. So 90% of the value, right? Because otherwise you'd leave your deposit if you thought it was worth that little, right? Or you would look at that from that kind of mathematical kind of perspective. And so I think that the same thing can probably be a good way to think about discounting right now. So if you look back and we all remember what things were worth, if we're even talking about right now as a very new marketplace, and taking that from that lens where we're seeing a new development from between 7% and 17% of a discount. And these are a lot of these offers are still in line with the offers we were getting right before everything changed. So to me, that's like a 10%-ish window, give or take some.
Great, makes sense. All right, we've got a question here. I'm actually going to combine 2 questions. So one is, I would really love to know how Sarah put the virtual open house together. So I think this question has to do with technology, what you're using to put that together. And I'm going to combine that with another question, which is what other tech is out there that can help me? So Sarah, why don't we have you kick it off, and then we'll have someone else chime in with other tech they're using.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been using Zoom for open house. You could use, I think, pretty much any virtual meeting software for it. So we've been able to set up meetings, and then we'll have one person be, you know, the command center, which is usually me, and I have my computer and my iPad, and usually videos already of the apartments, and then we'll have agents in the vacant apartments who can be there with their cameras live in the apartments. So when we're, for example, last night at the open house, I had a video of our listing that I took on a very sunny day, because it's a very sunny listing, and we were doing the open house in the evening. So I showed the video and talked about it, and then my partner, Lisa, who also lives in my building, was in the unit. So, you know, if someone wanted to look at the extra large refrigerator, she could show them details about how much space fits in there. So we've sort of figured that out, and then we have, you know, people can join with or without video, with or without audio. So some people really engage with the architect who's on, because they want to know how to open the kitchen. So they might have conversation, or and then we can take the camera over to the kitchen wall, and she can look at, the architect can look at it and say, oh yeah, that can come down, it can't come down, or I need to look at a more detailed floor plan. So it's been great. We've been able to really use that technology to have people be able to, you know, look at either a screenshot of a floor plan or a pre-made video, or take them around the apartment live. And I'm lucky to have such great colleagues who, the other agent, Denise O'Neill, who's listings on 55th Street, she's really been helpful helping me organize and get the technology going. So she's amazing, and I'm just blessed to have such amazing colleagues.
Awesome. Awesome. Important to have that village to raise the child, as Kirsten said. Anyone else have any tech they're working with that is particularly helpful during this time? I think someone mentioned something about social media on our.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, what I'd love to be able to start doing, I've been, you know, would be doing more Instagram Live. I'm doing a lot of Instagram Live with other real estate moguls. Like I did an Instagram Live interview yesterday with a very good friend of mine who's a big broker in Miami, and I really hope to be soon doing Instagram Live with Compass Development marketing, so that we can do where they, and this is a great way to enhance the following in theory, would be to have, you know, somebody who's in the space showing the space, and then somebody maybe from another, you know, another following being able to ask questions or point them around or read the questions that are coming through, so that you're able to kind of pivot and do something that's live and people can kind of click in as they'd like. So I think that using social media is great, and we're continuing to use social media. I know I personally am, because I really work on my Instagram a lot. I'm Kirsten.Jordan on Instagram, and I spend a lot of time making sure that I have constant content that's interactive, maybe about, we're doing a history series about the history of New York. So every single listing that we have, we've been going through and doing a history series of that neighborhood and interesting historical facts. And then you're able to swipe up to the listings, or being able to come up with, you know, fun facts just even about those buildings, but continuing to keep things interactive. And I'm finding that there's a lot of people really want to hear a little bit more about real estate now. For a little while, it's felt a little bit tone deaf to be really pushing stuff out, but now I think people are really interested. I do a video series that I launch also on Saturday nights, where I talk about the real estate market, or talk about what I'm seeing from like a personal growth perspective during quarantine. So I'm seeing that as a great way to engage people, and I really hope that to be able to do some virtual open houses that way soon.
Fabulous. We're getting a lot of questions here. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I definitely recommend having someone show it live and then someone else talk, because as we discovered when we did our first one, it's very difficult to talk and walk and film and control the technology all at the same time. So just from personal experience, you don't want to try to do everything at once, because then you say a lot of ums and the camera doesn't move right. So very important to have a team for these.
Well said. It is difficult to read all these great questions and also make sure I can see our panelists right now. But we're doing it for you. And one question that we're getting a lot about is this, how we can apply this to the rentals market as well as the sales market. And I think a lot of these tips are very applicable, right? Like when you're, you know, when you can do an Instagram Live or something in this space, talking about the neighborhood as a whole, how the neighborhood has evolved, New York City history, and things like that. Any other tips that come to mind, particularly for those rental agents out there, that we can apply some of what we've already said to?
One thing I've done a couple of rentals now during this time. People had seen the spaces right before, so I don't have a ton of experience with the virtual showing piece of it, but I can say that one of the most important things I've seen to be able to cover my landlords appropriately was we have had 2 different lease break scenarios where people have decided to break their leases, and we've been able to work out deals. And one of the most important things is to make sure that there is coverage if there's a delay in the moving in and moving out. And so what we've done in those cases was make sure that there was an overlap, so that there was basically a month grace period either way, with a 2-week kind of 2-week notice, if you would, to be able to make sure that you know, the people getting out, you're not just letting them out until you know that the other people are really in with this kind of month of gray area. And that's made it so that nobody's lost money and everybody's been very, very happy, and we got very lucky. But we did that to make sure that during that lease break process, our landlords weren't out unnecessary money.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Anyone have anything to add on rentals? Sandy, it looked like you had something. Oh, I misread. All right, well, I do want to address one thing. We're getting a couple more questions about that 3D home tour. So yeah, it's just in the App Store. It's absolutely free. Zillow 3D home tour, and you can download it. So that's the song on that. And I really, really like this question. I've been trying to save it for the end, and I think it's the perfect time to go around. We'll have each of our speakers answer this one because it really is, it's a great way for us to wrap this up. So the question is, have you set any professional goals during this time? And if so, what are they? And I will start with the person who looks the most ready. I'm just gonna throw it to you, Kirsten.
With personal and professional goals, I have 3 children who are under the age of 7. So they're 2, almost 5 and 6 years old. So in the last 7 years or 6 years, I haven't really had a ton of time for personal development. So during this time, I've really spent a lot of time reading personal development books about women in the workplace, about women's success, trying to work on overcoming any sort of, you know, like the gender barriers to success that are mostly here and everywhere, and trying to figure out ways to improve the way that I interact with the world. So I've read a ton of personal development books during this time, and I'm finding that it's helped me stay in my peak state. And that's been something that was a really big roller coaster right in the beginning, because it was so drastic and so fast, and all happened so fast. I have 3 kids who are home homeschooling. It was a lot. So that's been what I've been basically doing, is trying to just improve myself so that when I come out of this, I'm able to capitalize, but also have, you know, go back to a balance with my family and my work.
Awesome. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, so I've been educating myself at this time. I've been taking CE courses on topics that I know nothing about to educate myself, like foreclosure and trust in estates and other topics to make me a better real estate agent for my clients. And I've also, now that I have time, I've been working on building my relationships with my clients and my prospects and my family and my friends. So, you know, I like to touch base with my clients and just say, hey, do you need a roll of toilet paper? You know, do you need some antibacterial? I mean, that's something memorable, you know, that they'll remember. They'll be like, wow, you know, she reached out just to see how I was doing. It wasn't just like an agent solicitation call. And then I set up weekly Zoom meetings with my family. So we all chat and get together, and then also with my Zumba buddies, and then also with my potential buyers, I try to invite them to things that they like. So if I know my buyer likes Zumba, I'll say, hey, why don't you join this virtual Zumba class with me? So that way we're building a relationship and we're doing something fun together. I have another buyer that has a dog. So I'm like, hey, why don't you do this virtual class with me on dog grooming? So, I mean, even though we're not together, we can still be together. I know that's the saying right now, but there's ways to do it. So.
The saying, because that's where we're at. It's a trope because we're all living it. How about you, Sarah?
I've been really focused on marketing and trying to learn you know, new creative ways to get myself and my listing out there and show people what it's all about. And then in my other side of my life, I'm a musician. I'm an aspiring opera singer. So obviously there's not much in the way of performance going on right now. Unfortunately, the whole global arts community is kind of shut down. But I've tried to use that as the opportunity to, you know, really learn new repertoire and work on techniques. So it's actually been great. So any other, I know a lot of agents are also performing artists. It's a great time to work on techniques and stuff like that. So because we, you know, can't do anything else, but it's been great to grow that way.
That's fantastic. Also a great time to offer things like singing lessons. I'd love to improve my prowess there, Sarah. So I'm going to give you a call after this.
Yeah, actually, I've been taking virtual voice lessons with my teacher, and you know, I missed studying in person, but they're actually really, we were both happy to find how great of a medium it was. So it actually works well. So it's great.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, I think we are just at the top of the hour. So thank you so much to our panelists for giving us such a rich and engaging conversation. A couple things for all of you listening in that I want to remind you of. When this closes, a quick survey will pop up, and I really encourage you to take it because it'll give us a lot of insight into how things went here, and will deeply inform the next webinar that we offer you. So please give us any and all thoughts. We are open to constructive criticism and praise. And the other thing I'll say is keep an eye out for our next event, which will be Decoding the Market. That's happening with our StreetEasy economic researchers who are going to go over their research and what they're seeing in the marketplace, and very importantly, how to communicate that to your clients. So keep a lookout for that. I would also encourage you to check out the StreetEasy Agent Resource Center. That's where you'll get a detailed breakdown of how to use that 3D Tour app, in addition to a lot of other great resources. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe.